What's up, second grade? Welcome back to Reader's Workshop. My name is Mrs. Orbea, and I'm going to be doing some lessons for you in our new reading unit, Bigger Books Mean Amping Up Reading Power. We're going to be reading a little bit longer books as we get farther into second grade, and we're going to learn some strategies that are going to help us amp up your reading power and your reading strength. Here are the 4 main strategies that you are going to work on this unit in second grade reading. You're going to work on making your reading sound fluent, which means making it sound really smooth and nice and exactly the way the author wanted you to read it. You're going to work on rereading a lot. Rereading alone sometimes and also with partners sometimes. You're going to work on understanding literary language. You probably don't know what literary language is yet. Don't worry about it. We're going to be learning that later in the lessons of this unit, literary language. And lastly, you're going to be working on keeping track while you're reading, because we're going to work on some longer books. As you become a second grader, a third grader, a fourth grader into your adulthood, you're going to read longer books, and you're going to need some strategies for keeping track of what's going on in a story when you read a really long story. But to start out with, our first lesson and our first chunk of this unit is going to be about making your reading fluent. How do we make our reading sound really smooth and fluent? Here's something I don't know if you know. Do you know what a scientist is? I bet you do. A scientist is a person that studies something, that asks questions, that figures out how things work. There are scientists who study bees. There are scientists who study hurricanes. But did you know that there are scientists who study reading? There are actually scientists who study the way that people learn to read and the way that people become great readers. And one of the important things that scientists have found out by going into classrooms and watching kids as readers is that second grade is a very important reading year. It's a year that second grade readers really go from being beginning readers to really becoming more strong readers. And one of the things they have figured out about second grade readers is that it is the year that they start to read silently and in their head. So you actually have 2 kinds of reading voices. You have your out loud reading voice that can sound in so many different ways, and you also have your head reading voice that you use when you're reading silently. And one of the things we're going to learn to do in this unit is to really help our head reading voice become great, just as good as our out loud reading voice. So this first part of our unit, we are going to be practicing. Let me get my big Post-it here. Wait till you see the size of this Post-it, you guys. Whoa, it's huge. We are going to be working on making our reading sound really fluent. And look what they even put here, a bunch of music notes, because when you're reading really fluently, it's almost like you're reading it as a beautiful song. Not necessarily because it has a tune or a melody, sometimes it might, but because you're reading it with a really wonderful voice. Okay, and one of the things that these scientists have figured out about how to make a great reading voice, both out loud and in your head, is that it's really important for kids to reread, okay? Rereading means reading again, reading the same thing again and again. Now, sometimes kids, I know my son does this, he's like, Mom, we already read this book. I don't want to read it again. But reading something again and again is what helps you make your out loud reading voice really great, and it really helps your in your head silent reading voice. There are actually high school students and college students who read the same piece of writing every single day for the entire school year because it helps them really just become fluent, excellent readers. I have a funny song to share with you all, okay? This song goes to the tune of Wheels on the Bus. Do you remember that song, Wheels on the Bus? Wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round. Okay, well, this song has that same tune, but we've changed the words to be about rereading. Are you ready? I'm going to read it first, so you can try to sing it with me if you want to. Here's the words. Read parts of our book again and again, out loud and in our heads. Out loud and in our heads, read parts of our books again and again to make our reading smooth. So we'll take a look at that song each time we start a lesson that has to do with rereading, just to remind you what an important part of reading is to reread something again and again. Okay? Today we're going to practice that idea of rereading out loud, aloud, and also in our head. And you can see here on this little post-it, here's a reader, and this is a bubble to show that that reader's reading out loud, because you can see that it's one solid line, like a speech bubble. And this is actually a thought bubble to show that this reader is using their silent head voice to also read in their head. And we're going to practice this today with this book, Owl Moon. This is such a famous, beautiful book that was written a while ago, and we read it all the time. I wonder if you've even seen this book this year with your reading teachers. I'm going to read a part of this book. It's actually the very first page. Take a look at it. Here it is. I'm going to show you the picture. You can get to start to know what's happening here, right? We see a big snowy setting, two people walking right here, and a house and maybe a barn, lots and lots of snow. Now, friends, I'm going to read this page looking at my book, but I've also made the words large here, and I'm going to put them right here so that you can see them as well. So that while I'm reading, you can also look at those words and try to read along with me. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to work on my voice. I'm going to work on making my voice sound fluent. Now that we're in second grade, we don't have to read like word by word robots anymore. Now we're learning to read really smoothly and beautifully, and the way that the author would want us to read that part. Okay? So I'm going to start reading, and then I want you to follow along and listen to the way that I use my voice in a fluent reading manner. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us, a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. Now, friends, you heard me use a lot of voice choices there. I'm a grown-up reader. I've been reading for a very long time. Back when I was in second grade, I learned about reading fluently, so I've had a lot of practice. But I can always get better. And one of the things we're going to do in this unit in second grade is reread something again and again to make us better. I want to teach you a strategy. Have you ever seen these big conch shells? It looks like this. It's a big ocean shell. And some people say that when you put your mouth and you talk into the shell, it whispers right back at you and it makes your voice kind of loud and projected back. Can you hear my voice? It works. Cool. Now, if you don't have a giant shell at home, which most people don't have, I just happen to have a special one, we're going to teach you how to use your hands as your conch shell. So I'm going to put one hand here. I'm going to put the other one right together. And I'm kind of creating that cup shell. And I'm going to read right into my reading shell. And it's going to bounce my voice back at me so that I can hear it really well. And while I'm practicing rereading to sound really fluent, I'm going to use my shell reading strategy. It's going to look like this. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright The sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us, a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. It works! It totally bounced my voice back at me and I could hear my own reading. So here is my challenge for you, friends. Attached to this video is a copy of the first page of Owl Moon. I would like you to practice rereading with your fluent voice into your reading shelf this same passage. Make it sound as beautiful and special as you can. But you're going to have to do something really important. You have to try to see it in your head. You have to feel it in your body. It's cold. It's snowy. The moon is shining so bright it might even make you squint. You have to try to experience it so that your voice can match the story. And when you're done with that, I want you to go and try it in a book of your own. So attached to this video is this passage, and you're going to try your shell reading with this passage. And then when you're done, you're going to go off and try it in one of your own books. See if you can figure out how the author wants you to read it, and practice with your shell reading strategy. I'll see you at our next lesson. Go get reading.